Welcome to another episode of my Motortown playthrough. Today we are back at Lijo Harbor, and this is because I want to take another look at these vehicles over here. These are from one of the asset packs, the one that also had the entirety of stuff for the harbor, and also a few vehicles like the Vista over here. But unlike the Vista, these ones are really only in the game as decoration. We cannot drive them, we cannot do anything with them, they're basically just, static props over here. The reason I'm talking about this again is because I recently got a comment by Scaleman, who is one of the game's modelers, and he explained to me why some of these vehicles are not being used and why they instead insist on replacing some others and do not want to add any further ones into the fray and that whole thing. So I want to give you guys an update on the entire situation to the best of my understanding from that conversation. If you want to read the original one, it's in the comments under my overview from the entire asset pack thing. So that whole video where I go through all the different asset packs that I found the game is using and talk about stuff there. But to give you guys an update in my own words, and for that I think I should mention that I did do some vehicle modeling in the past for some GTA mods, but it was mostly hack jobs, so while I'm not completely unfamiliar with the stuff, I'm definitely not a pro or anything to that extent. So the thing is that for this game, the team has decided on a few requirements for new vehicles. They should be able to open all the doors, the bonnet, the trunk, and stuff like that. They should have a properly modeled engine in there, and that's something that you cannot necessarily expect from the boxed vehicles because that's just they are being used for all kinds of stuff, but for this game there are certain things that the devs want to have, and some of it is really just in case they need it in the future. And I can I can understand that because in the end, if they ever decide that they want to do something with the engine, that you now need to open the bonnet in order to refill the coolant on the engine or something like that. And none of the vehicles have that functionality baked in. Then whenever they consider doing stuff like that, they would likely not go for it because at that point the amount of work required to make that even possible would be way too much. So while there is a chance that maybe they put in some extra work right now that they cannot really do anything with later, in case they really want to do that, and it seems like it's not too unlikely to come at some point. If they ever want to do that, it's a good thing that they are now working towards that already. So the doors needing to be separate parts that can open, same for the trunk and the bonnet. That's one thing. And another thing is that the cars should also have modeled engines. So with some of these from asset packs, when they are not supposed to be opened or anything like that, then it stands to reason that there's nothing in there. And that is a bit of a problem, and it's getting made worse by the fact that basically all of the asset vehicles, at least the regular cars, are too large. I mean, just take a closer look at the Fortum besides this one here, and just notice how tiny the Fortum looks. I mean, of course, this is a rather sizable muscle car, but it's still just when I pull up with my N4 GT here, it's too large. And that can actually be quite a problem because while you can of course scale the stuff down, in the end, currently these models are made to function with these characters as everything is right now. If you start to scale that down, suddenly that may not work anymore, so you would need to fix that. Maybe some other stuff would also give you problems, and in the end, if you have separate tuning parts, those would also need to be adjusted, and there's a lot of work that can pile up, and at some point, especially if stuff doesn't work from the get-go, once you adjust the size, you can run into quite the issues. And yeah, if you have a vehicle that is not supposed to have an engine in it, you need to make space for that, and suddenly you basically decrease the size of your engine bay. It just doesn't work out at some point. So yeah, I think that's one of the main reasons I at least try to repeat that to the best of my abilities. And right now, let me tell you guys, after everything that happened to me in the past, my abilities right now are a bit limited, but that's beside the point. So yeah, but I would still love to see these vehicles being used. There are definitely a few good reasons why that will not be the case. And in the end, while I still think these look pretty nice, I hope we get something comparable in the future. Gonna see what that's gonna look like, but yeah, as it is right now, if we were to get them as fully usable vehicles, they would likely also just end up on the modeler's to-do list for later readjustments, and who knows what kind of rat's tail that would carry with it. So instead of opening that can of worms, we just don't get to use them. Anyways, I think that's pretty much enough about that topic. Let me just jump into the car again, and today we are gonna do a bit of urgent taxi driving. Also, when it comes to the different vehicles, from what I've seen, I mean, the Sinti vehicles seem to, at least for the most part, have door seams models, so I guess they have separate doors. That's not a guarantee, they might still just be for show, but it is likely. But yeah, definitely the stuff from Acidville, so the different semis that haven't been made for the game, and some of the other nice looking vehicles, they don't have any doors or anything like that at all, so that would be quite a bit of work. Okay, we're gonna see where this fella wants to go, and okay, just to Gangyang, so that's pretty much the expected route here. A lot of taxi driving here is basically going between Jeju City and Gangyang back and forth. And yeah, I'm not gonna care about comfort for this guy. I'm not in the taxi for that. Well, my guy, you're not gonna get there comfortably, but you're gonna get there quick, and I think you should be thankful to get there in one piece. And since we are on the topic of modeling anyways, I mentioned a moment ago that I have some experience in modeling, and well, I might as well tell you guys some of the stuff that I've done. And by some I mean most of it, because it really wasn't all that much. Basically, for a while I was on a custom FiveM server for GTA. So that's where a lot of role-playing and stuff happens, but the one I was on was more like a racing server, and still is at the end of the day. We're still doing stuff, I'm just not really interested in GTA anymore, so I kinda left that. But yeah, I was staff on there mostly for tech building and stuff like that. But in the end I also decided to have a look at how car modeling goes, because those guys were always looking for new car models, and I just wanted to see how it works and just try my hand at it. So I got a free trial version for a month for one of the usually subscription-based programs, and it was painful. Like, that thing was anything but intuitive, and it just was a pain dealing with all the stuff, and I made a lot of mistakes. There weren't that many tutorials, unless they were in the business of taking the light bar from one of the police vehicles and putting that onto another car. I found like multiple tutorials on that topic, but stuff that I was interested, not so much. I basically tried making
Thank you very much.
something like different racing versions of cars by pulling at their fenders and stuff, just trying to see if I can make a white body kit and also apply a few aftermarket parts. A lot of things that really didn't end up looking too nice, some things that maybe if I put in more time could have been something in the end, but overall I'm really looking at the map wrong. I think it's that guy that I'm supposed to pick up. Oh yeah, pure urgent, that's nice.
Thank you very much.
In the end, nothing too much came of it. I had one vehicle that got almost done. I basically took the Ford GT looking thing from GTA and tried to stretch it out to apply a body kit to make it look more like Need for Speed Most Wanted. That car there has some really nice white body kits that would look amazing if done properly. So wasn't really working out too well. I handed it over to somebody else, and some of the stuff just things are a lot more complicated with modeling than you would expect, especially if you are using not the greatest program. Yeah, also those cars have a lot of things going on already by default. So it's not like the model is just a brick and you are applying the hammer to form it into what you want it to be. There's a lot of separate parts, LODs, the so-called level of details. So that's for how well the model is going to look on distance scaling and that kind of stuff. A lot of things to be done there, and a lot of things that can go wrong. I found it funny. I recently watched a video of somebody using modified vehicles, and they had it that basically a copy of the entire car came off if one of the doors was removed from the vehicle. So the door fell off, and attached came a weightless, collisionless copy of the car shell. And I knew exactly what the problem was because I had that myself years ago. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that I mainly did. And the one thing that I did that actually was a success at the time, I helped make the first law-friendly, that's the term we use for vehicles that are not strictly based on something real, but more like inspired and stuff like that. So not using any actual real parts or real models or something. Yeah, I was part of a team that built the first law-friendly Formula-style racing car in the game. It's kind of a funny story and one that I'm pretty proud of. So yeah, the thing was, back in the team, I don't know how it started, but people have been asking for an open wheel race car for quite a while. And yeah, one of the head modelers tried to have a bit of a joke with them. So he promised an open wheel single-seater car, and he was working on it. The thing is, open wheel single seater isn't always a race car. For example, if you remove the fenders from this tractor and maybe also the cabin, well, it's an open wheel single seater at that point. And that's exactly what he did. There was this old, barely functional tractor model in the game with not even rubber wheels, but just basically they looked like shovels or something. And he made a restored version of that. Nicer engine, actual rubber on the wheels, and everything looking pretty nice. And yeah, it was pretty cool, but in the end, it was a racing server he built it for, so nobody was really expecting that all that much. And at that point I thought, hey, I had this idea for quite a while, why not try it out? Maybe I can make something here that could dampen the blow of the community. And yeah, so I started and took one of the jets that was already in the game, and I just shrunk it down, removed the canopy, removed the wings, merged it together with another actual race car model where I only left the parts of the cockpit, the driver's seat, the wheels and that kind of thing. And I managed to shrink everything down and readjust the proportions so that it actually looked like a Formula style race car. If you put that side by side with the jet it originated as, you could still see that it was that jet. But, well, I eventually also figured out a few vehicles from which I could take the suspension, spoilers and that kind of thing. And I just basically hacked them all together into something that looked drivable. It kinda was drivable, but let me be clear. The points at which I removed the areas from which I removed the wings, they had holes. Some of the other stuff like the jet engine was still in the back and all of that, it was far from a proper model. But it also kind of looked like halfway an open wheel race car, so that's what I managed to do. And thankfully, at that point I also got that very experienced and talented modeler to pick up the project and patch the holes, fix the thing, build a custom suspension, build a custom engine, and really turn it into something that was more of a proper race car. And that was what eventually became the Ferocious 312. So I'm still proud of it, especially about the idea and that I at least got it to the point where the other guy could basically take the body and just take care of everything else that needed to be done. And to be clear, that was still a whole lot of work, and especially a lot of work that I would have never been able to do. Okay, maybe you want to turn around before I get to that guy. But yeah, we made it work. I had the idea, I had the initial pitch, and thankfully somebody else took over some details afterwards. I had a few other minor projects that I tried but didn't really get too far with. After all, in the end, I only had a trial version of that software, and I think it was like a month or so. I was really putting in some time trying to make the most of it, but yeah, that open wheel race car that I basically handed over was the only one that ended up being finished. The other two projects, I mean, one of them was almost finished, but it was always a bit of too much of a hack job, the Ford GT I mean. And the other one was basically McLaren F1, the in-game version, and kinda both of them merged together. I wanted to have a racing version of a short tail version, and because I kinda got in over my head, it wasn't enough for me to shorten the rear of the vehicle. I also decided to implement the front of the separate short tail versions model. So I could have theoretically just taken the racing version, which was the long tail, gotten rid of the long tail, and it would have been the short tail, but there was a separate road going version of the shorter tail vehicle, and I kind of want to have the front parts in there, including some upgrades. It could have worked out, but in the end, time restrictions, me not really liking what I did there, not really having fun with the with the software overall. It was nice being able to do something with it, but in the end, I just disliked the entire process so much that I kinda gave up on it. So that's basically my story on the entire thing. I also don't think I still have any of the pictures. I mean, it would have been a
Thank you very
great
much.
idea maybe looking up on that before starting the video so that I can at least show you guys something. But nope, was meant to be. Okay, may need to refresh the buses anyways. Also, yeah, on another note, I got some comments on my last video about the, what I like to call the Kübelwagen, which in-game is called the Savannah, and apparently it's a different vehicle. It's based on the Kübelwagen and partially also the Volkswagen Käfer or VW Beetle. And the Kübelwagen is basically the older, fully militarized version, which is also apparently all-wheel drive, and this one is based on the civilian Safari version which came after. Didn't really know about it, but since I got corrected on that, I thought I might as well update you guys on that also. And the stuff that I found about the roof rack not working, I mean it is working, but it's kinda overlapping with closed roof and also kinda poking through the open roof as well. That's gonna be adjusted in a future update. I guess they already have the stuff done from what it sounded like, but they are still doing something else for the update before publishing it. So that might be something to have another look at some point. But yeah, as to be expected, that's gonna be fixed sooner or later. Also, another thing that I reported in the meantime was that there was a little bug about some of manual loading not working. Seems like an old bug was reintroduced with a recent update, and if you try to stack cargo or just put it together too closely, you can end up with a warning telling you that the cargo is overlapped and it won't let you strap it. But that also seems to be something that they will be fixing next update, or at least very soon. The reason I'm bringing this up is because, well, after playing some Railroads Online again, I kind of want to reiterate on the point that I made there time and time again. I absolutely do not care that some of these things happen. I mean, I don't really mind too much. It's not about these little mistakes popping up. That's something that just happens in development. The important thing is how the devs deal with it. Railroads Online leave stuff in until God knows when. Motortown, they are pretty good about it. I remember having a bug quite a while ago with my controller setup, which is a really weird thing that I don't know anybody else is using in that way. And yeah, I reported the bug, I heard back from the dev, and He also at some point then requested to have my config and try out things, and less than 10 minutes after me giving him my stuff, he came back to me with a temporary solution and the promise that the bug would be fixed with the next update, which it then of course also was fixed, so all good there. And yeah, that's the reason why when stuff like this happens in this game, I don't mind too much. I know they're gonna take care of it, I have full confidence in that, and therefore it's not really too big of a deal. Railroads Online, however, other games that are handled in a less than ideal way, you're likely going to be stuck with that bug for months, if not a year or even longer. Possibly indefinitely. So that's just a little thing that I want to say about that. And yeah, one of the reasons why I keep Motortown in high regard, because the people working on it obviously care. And yeah, that's pretty important at the end of the day. Another thing I want to quickly touch upon, since we were talking about the whole modeling stuff the entire video, or at least I was. I don't know what you guys have been doing, likely not listening to my weird ramblings. Anyways, yeah. Another thing I want to touch upon is one thing that I would really like to see in this game in terms of new cars, and that's also something that I commented on today on the Discord. I had this idea for a while, but yeah, what I would really like to see is one of the first gen Subaru Imprezas. First up, small, light, all-wheel drive, sign me up. But the other thing is, and I may have already made a bit of a mistake saying that I would like to have one of these vehicles. So to my best of understanding with my rather sketchy modeling powers, it's definitely a lot more work making two completely different vehicles than making multiple versions of the same one. Say the different Kivas, say the different Limousines and all of that. The Subaru Impreza came in multiple versions. There were two-door versions, slightly longer four-door sedan versions, some station wagon versions, and some people even turned them into a ute. I'm not saying I would like to see all of them, I don't think that's necessary, but if, well, if my understanding of how much more work it is to make two vehicles compared to one vehicle and then multiple versions of that, if that holds any water, it would kind of be nice to have some vehicles that have multiple versions. Just have more options in the game, and also to add a bit variety to the traffic. Right now it's basically all the minimum in some regards. We have a few models for compact cars, we have a few for muscle cars, but overall there's still a bit of variety missing, at least in my opinion. So it would be nice to maybe get multiple versions of the same car, maybe the four-door sedan version and the station wagon version. Just have another station wagon in the game overall. And maybe also the ute, that would be very nice. But yeah, it all kind of hinges on not only the stuff like the current priorities of the team, but also how much more work it will really be making multiple things like that. But yeah, if I had a say in that, then that would be the kind of thing that I would be going for. Partially also because I bloody love Imprezas. They are amazing. Wouldn't want to earn one in real life because apparently they have a tendency to blow up on you, but in games, there's rarely a game where there is a Subaru and if there are multiple Subarus, I will at least own one of them at some point. if not multiple.
Be careful. Thank you very much.
Also, you may have noticed that I have quite a bit of money now in game again. I basically did a lot of bus driving. Just a bit of a relaxing thing that I could do on my side, and it was kind of fun. Also, I want to have more money to buy different new things, and we'll get into some of those in the next few episodes. But I think at this point it's a good time to end the episode here. To make a bit of a conclusion on the whole taxi driving thing that I've done here today. I mean, the car is fun, it is nice, but overall I think I still prefer going for both speed bonus and comfort using the servos. I think they're just the more fun challenge, just trying to be fast but also trying to be smooth, not just trying to get there as fast as possible, but also constantly hearing the taxi passenger scream that I should be more careful, which I likely should be, but that's on a different note. I'm here to deliver them quickly, and they have no right to complain about anything in that regard. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me, from me for this episode. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time. Have a good one, and bye bye.